there's a story in every bottle. Starting to get that nailed down.
It's Monday again.
And we're
Another
drinking,
Monday.
And we're drinking together?
Yeah,
So
and we're drinking
probably
again.
live,
Another Monday. Cheers.
Or quasi-live or,
Cheers.
or whatever that is.
Welcome everybody to another Monday with the Hermits. We're sorry we missed last week. We would have very much liked to have been here, but we were in the middle of nowhere.
I remember where we were.
We were in the middle of nowhere.
That's great.
There was no
I'm
internet.
very sorry that we couldn't.
There was no internet
broadcast.
for 20 miles around.
No people.
No people for 20 miles around. Actually, that was probably the most magical thing about our experience. But unfortunately, it happened on a Monday night, and we're sorry we couldn't be here for our show. But we're back today, and thank you, all of you, for joining us for another episode of our Monday Night Live. And we're really excited to have David Birke here.
This is the new form of Chuck. He looks a little different. But, oh no, it's not Chuck. It's David.
So it's not Chuck. It's David Birke. David Birke has known Ken since he was like 3, which is a few years ago. Exactly. And
well, I'm returning.
Yes, you're returning to that. You're backing down the age. I think. What did we say? You're 8. I think last time we
met in 2nd grade.
Oh no. I have no shame, so I will admit that I was known as Booger Birk for a while at Prairie Street Elementary School.
Yes.
And that's when you met Ken?
You knew me reputationally as that weird unkempt kid. Yeah. And that was, but then we formally kind of really met at Highland Hall.
At Highland Hall in 6th grade.
In 6th or 7th.
Did you start in 7th grade?
I started in 7th.
Okay, I started there in 6th grade.
So we're going to get into this in just a moment.
This is very important. Don't interrupt.
It's important. No, it's really important. We're going to get deep. We're going to take a deep dive into this relationship because I think it's fantastic. So David is here on the East Coast. He lives out in California, and he's here on a movie related experience, which we'll get into in a second. Before we do that, we've got to go through the preamble that we always do. For all of you, it's really hard.
Did I say that out loud?
It's really hard for you. I know, Ken.
I know. I'm
That's the 7-year-old in you. So for all of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. And right below, Ken, you can point down now. Yeah, on YouTube, there's a subscribe button, and we'd love it if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel if that's where you're watching us today. And if you're watching us on Facebook, there's a little bell on the screen, and if you click that bell, you'll subscribe to our Facebook channel. And by subscribing, you will get notified every time we go live, whether it's Monday night at 5:30 or somewhere off in the world, maybe in the woods or on a sailboat somewhere. Who knows? So we hope you'll subscribe and join us for future episodes. If you're also here for the first time, we'd love it if you'd let us know you're here. Please leave information or leave a comment and introduce yourself so that we can say hello. And if you have questions during the broadcast, we'd love it if you'd share the questions in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube, and we will do our best to answer those questions live here on the show. And if we can't get to your questions on the show, we'll get to them as soon after the show as we can. And one last thing for all of you who are here, either for the first time or any time, we'd love it if you'd like our broadcast. Share it with your friends and family and those who you think would enjoy or appreciate the conversations that we have on these Monday night episodes. So thank you. And before we actually get into the show, I have one kind of sad thing to share. As you can see, Marika is not here with us tonight. Marika is no longer with Hermit Woods, and we're very sorry about that. And we would very much like to say, we want to wish her the best and hope that good things work out for her in the near future. and we will support her. And maybe we hope someday she'll have another way to reconnect with us, or maybe a new role with us. But we want to say thank you to Marika for all the wonderful things she's done for us, and her role in this show, and support her in her next adventures. And so thank you, and please join me in that for her as well. So with that, we're going to get into the reason that David is here, and we started a little bit about that. So David's traveling.
About that myself. So hopefully
we'll figure it out. By the end of the hour,
Yeah.
we'll know why you're here.
Thank you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. We'll hope for the best. So
yeah, David was on his way on a drive about cross country into New York City to visit a friend, and then you called me or texted me from Arizona or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, oh, great, you're going to be out on the East Coast. Is there any chance you could come up to visit? Because you've done this in the past.
Sure.
I remember you driving all the way across into Bob's driveway at Hermit Woods when it was at your house. And he drove all the way across
I think it
country.
actually didn't even exist yet. It was
maybe it was before.
I think we were cleaning out jugs and stuff. It was just the germ of the idea.
Oh,
Woods at the
wow.
And it was like you were showing me your house, and you were saying we are going to turn the house into a winery.
turn our
that was
master
2010
bedroom.
then. It
That
must
was
have been 2010.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was
That's
a long
great.
time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've been here a couple of times, and it's always so much fun, and we get to share the New England thing. But, it's the context of the backstory that sets that in motion, because you and I knew each other when we were, little kids.
Yes.
And then we're in school together for a long time. And then we went off in our separate ways with our lives and our families, but we always kept in touch.
Yeah.
Which has been great. And
So
a completely different path. And
Actually, from observing this from afar, what I've seen, based on many conversations with you over the years, so you never grew up, and that's really wonderful. I'm glad that that's the case.
this is another
And-
person who never grew up saying that.
Good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and Ken, he grew up and became a little kind of, all professional and grown up and everything, and now he's reversing. He's back into I think we've decided he's somewhere around 8 now. And so you
They
guys
think
are
I'm
starting to.
progressing. They don't actually see it as progress. And they think
No,
that
it
I
is
was like all
progress.
professional
It is
or
progress.
something. It's
I
like,
was
You're
just saying.
standing on your head in that picture that I saw. So
isn't that a cool shot?
That is a very cool shot, and I thought that was
Ken,
it's
progress.
design regression.
I
You're
love
now
that
with
shot.
us
Yeah.
because we've never grown up. Remember, so
I know.
you're just.
And you're both artists, and I like artists, so it's a good thing.
Artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go with that. Okay.
Hey, you know what we didn't say? What are we drinking? We got to, and all of you out there in our audience,
Oh,
please
I've got a
let us
wine
know
for
what
you.
you're drinking at home.
I got a new
I'll
wine for you. Finish that one.
What was this?
That was the sparkling strawberry.
And I have the
Oh, I didn't like
new
strawberries. That was
vintage
very good.
of Lake House Red, which is
Let's see
coming
what you
out
think
in
of
our
this one.
club in a couple weeks. And the sparkling Cirque du Strawberry was also going to be in the club, and this is.
Northern Berry Red. So I thought you might like.
No, this is good. No, anything that's berries is good.
Because you're
I guess-
not a wine drinker.
I'm
I
not
know.
a wine drinker.
And
No,
so-
funny to be here, but no, but this is anything that's like as far away from a conventional wine as can be.
Well, that's what these are. It's about as far
You
as
came to the right place.
conventional as possible.
Yeah, it's a great wine-like beverage.
So let us know what you're drinking out there in the audience. We'd love to know.
So on the
So-
wine front, you get to go now because you're, a famous writer
Yes.
over to the Cannes Festival in France.
Yes.
And this is France's vineyards everywhere because they produce, a bulk of the wine on the planet out of that place. So they grow grapes
No,
just about everywhere.
pearls before swine with me. It's like it's all wasted. I was just
So
telling
you had fancy wines while you were there?
No, yeah, and I was just telling you, and I went. I wrote a lesbian nun movie called Benedetta that was filmed in a
Which is
convent.
fantastic,
It is
by the way.
It is
I love this
fantastic.
movie. Yeah.
But it was actually.
You've seen it already?
Of course, twice.
Yeah.
I usually
You
watch
haven't
his stuff.
I haven't seen it.
I usually watch
It's-
his stuff at least
You didn't
twice.
share it with me.
2 years old at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, Jesus
I told you
Christ.
about it.
Okay, but you should. I'm a little
Okay,
disappointed,
yeah.
but I'll get over it. But what I was going to say was, it was I forget the name of the town, but I went to visit the location while they were filming it, and it's like a convent.
Of where the monastery was?
Where
or
it was a convent, yeah.
A convent?
And it was like in the middle of a vineyard. It was completely surrounded by vineyards, and and everybody, and there was like a wine cellar and everything, and everybody was very excited about this and talking about this, and it just all went right over my head, and I don't even remember a thing that anybody said about it. It was like, oh, grapes, wonderful, great.
But it is. And, I mean, so many of these places historically were centered in, they grew grapes all over the place there.
You were the one, I remember in high school, you telling me the story about how beer kind of evolved as like monks' food. Yeah. Because they
weren't allowed to eat on Sunday. They couldn't have bread, but they could drink barley liquid in the form of beer. Yeah, I was explaining how I didn't like the yeasty taste of beer, and you were saying, well, it's because it's like bread and blah blah. So I was doing that in high school.
That was like in high school. That was a prophetic conversation.
I didn't even know my beer.
You were on a beer journey at 7.
You were on
it started before.
Well, or no, at 11.
No, this would have been before in like 12th grade or something. So you were on this path longer than you.
Yeah, because I really didn't connect the dots of beer as being something really, really exciting as it is until I went to Europe bicycling, and that was my freshman year in college when I was 18.
Right.
So that.
And also because I am getting senile.
Already?
There could be some slippage in terms of my memories about exactly whether it was like high school or just after high school. But wasn't there a period where you had a neighbor where we would like play pool or ping pong, I forget which, in his garage?
That was John Yates.
And wasn't there like a keg of some kind of homemade beer or something?
Was not related to that at all.
But somebody made some kind of homemade beer that was.
I don't remember that part, but I do remember being in that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna interrupt you for a second.
We're gonna go down
because this is great.
Remember Melody?
Oh no! Don't go to Melody. No. So
we can
just
talk about the basis for Prince.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Wendy Melvoin. Yeah.
Well, for the benefit of our audience, I want to know a little bit more about who you are and who you've become since your early days of getting to know Ken, because a lot of time has transpired since you guys were in school together, and you've both you're on different coasts, you've gone on different tracks, different career tracks. But I'm excited about the things that you've been doing. Sadly, I haven't seen your latest movie, but I've seen many others, so that's okay. But so you became a Hollywood writer. Yeah, is that what you do?
I became a big Hollywood writer, and I've kind of gone on a long kind of personal evolution. I used to eat all the time at the McDonald's at Parthenia and Nordhoff.
You don't anymore?
Now I eat at the McDonald's.
Okay, thank goodness.
Uptown, is that a better part of town?
Basically, yeah. So
you've gone up in the world.
I've moved from sort of the northeastern valley to the more central valley. So big stride.
Is there a McDonald's somewhere else that you strive to someday eat at that will be a new pinnacle?
Well, I have eaten at a McDonald's in Tokyo.
I thought they're all the same.
That is the miracle.
It's not about it's about the location.
Although the nuances are amazing because it does have to do with the care. There's like each plate, you can tell the level of care that they put into the
You're the only person I know that actually is like a McDonald's person, that you enjoy their food, you enjoy the establishment, and you've been going to that establishment since you were a little kid.
It's like being a Wonder Bread connoisseur or something like that. It's the most pathetic thing imaginable. But no, it is just an infantile.
Like we said, you've never grown up.
Do you still? No, correct me if I'm wrong. I think back in high school or junior high, when we would walk and go to a McDonald's.
Yes.
And you would order your hamburger without pickles.
Yes, I evolved to the point where I would take the pickles off myself instead of doing it.
Because you didn't want to wait for the special order?
No, actually, you're reminding me, there was a technique there. If you said you wanted no pickles, then that made them do it a special order so it would be hot. That was the genius
I knew there was something.
That
I knew
was
there
the
was
genius
something
thing.
that you did.
And I think with Tom, I got lazy and I just said,
okay, hell with it. You just
as
get
you
it,
feel the Grim Reaper hovering,
warmed up by a light,
I'll
and
just
then you
take
just throw the pickles off.
Yeah, I'll just take the lukewarm burger. Yeah.
But it was pickles,
So, but when you were young, you didn't know you were going to end up making beer as an adult,
I had
but
no idea
you
what I was gonna
knew
do.
pretty early on
Yeah,
you were going to be making movies
He was
because
always into movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a director. Obviously, I mean, everybody wants to be a director. And it just
I didn't know
got-
that, so that's
Yeah,
good
no,
to
no,
know.
Is that the
That was
the
the thing, and
pinnacle
hopefully,
thing to be a director?
I've always got some. I actually did shoot. I finally broke down and just self-financed an ultra low budget thing that I shot myself, just to say I shot a movie.
And you were the director.
Yeah, I did get to play director. I did. and
Does
that
it
was-
say
that
on
was fun.
IMDb
No,
that you're?
I'm waiting. It's not even finished yet. Right now, it's just like a notion, basically, because it's in 1,000 pieces on my.
But eventually, you're going to get your directorship
Yeah, no.
stated out there.
Eventually, to the degree that the guy who made now all of a sudden, because there's a million people watching.
That's right.
That's right.
Uh,
a million.
yeah, I'm blanking on the name, but like the guy who made Deathbed, the bed that eats people, right? He was a director. He got to, and he has a credit on the IMDb. So my aspiration is to at least reach that
I remember
level.
being in a
Yeah.
film that you filmed with a Super 8
Yes, well,
in the storm drain.
We were co-directors.
You were in his
Yes,
first film.
Actually, the first.
I was actually in his first movie.
Yeah, or I would say I was in his first movie.
I didn't. You came up with this
Well,
concept.
yeah,
I just,
But I mean, as I was going to say, it's a family broadcast. But when we were in like fifth or I guess it must have been seventh
that's been
grade.
seventh grade when you
Must have
showed
been
up.
seventh
Yeah.
grade.
Super 8.
Yeah, it was a Super 8 film. We made a film that was brilliantly titled "Ah, Fuck You," for no reason.
How did your parents feel
it
about
seemed
that?
important to you
Yeah,
at that
but
time.
well, the thing is, what's interesting is that it had like kind of like a Christopher Nolan kind of twist in
Yeah.
it, because there was like it's basically also the entire cast and crew was just us
Just
handing the camera back and forth. Like I would act and be the victim, and then hand the camera to him, and it went back and forth.
Is this archived anywhere? Can I watch this?
Oh, I think all my old films are just mulch. Even in fact, the one film I was proud of, if my brother happens to be watching, my Project One film that I was proud of.
was this at UCLA?
At UCLA, yeah. I made the fatal error of leaving a knife with peanut butter next to the sink. And this so enraged my brother, who was, I guess, going through a phase, that he took my film and unspooled it and dragged it across the street.
He has a
and
brother
destroyed
like
it.
you have a brother.
Yeah.
Just so you know,
And, yeah.
they're both creative, and so he has a brother
Yes.
like you have a brother.
Creative,
I'll leave it
yeah.
at that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. But I think "Ah, Fuck You" is the closest thing to really realizing my vision on film. Unfortunately, I
And so
doubt
early.
it exists. So
Early in your career.
Yeah, I think like Orson Welles, I kind of peaked real early. I think like in seventh grade. It was good, but I remember actually, we filmed it in the sewer. I think we were oblivious to the fact that was actually human feces that we were filming in. And we easily could have gotten like Ebola or something, but miraculously did not.
Yeah.
But I remember the climax of the movie is I had a monster mask. This is actually also this is before Freddy and Jason
I can't
and all
believe
that,
you remember all
actually.
this stuff.
Yeah. And you were the killer, like with the monster mask. And I remember the last shot.
Is that with the bars?
Well, there was the bar. Yeah, the storm.
That's
drain.
all I remember.
The
Something
sewer
about
had
the
a
bar.
storm drain had bars on it, and like the guy's getting stabbed while he's like trying to reach out of the bars, but all simulated with only two people there. But the great thing was the last shot was you were dead with the mask on your face, and then my hand.
Oh,
I'm holding my hand.
That's right. You revealed.
And I took off the mask, and there was the shocking reveal that the killer is the other character that was in the movie. So it was brilliant. It was a little Christopher Nolan.
Seventh grade brilliance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the first movie that actually is out in the world, that somebody, the first one you made that
people
is
could see.
still there, that they could go
they could
look
watch.
up and
well,
see?
well, my early things are in heavy rotation, like on the Lifetime Network at 2 a.m, basically.
Okay.
If you ever see a Women in Jeopardy movie with like a former Charlie's Angel, odds are that those are my early things, like The Immortal Kiss and Tell with Cheryl Ladd.
With Cheryl Ladd, that's right.
Yeah,
You worked
or,
with Cheryl Ladd.
A Kidnapping in the Family with Kate Jackson and Tracy Gold.
Kate Jackson, that's right.
Yeah, post anorexia Tracy Gold. That was she was actually very nice. And yeah, and then that I'm making fun of that, like that was all crap, and it was, but that was like my heyday, because then after that, the woman who was hiring me all the time at ABC got fired, as executives are wont to do. So I basically got busted down to doing direct-to-video serial killer movies for my friend Larry Rett.
90s?
This would have been the late 90s was when I kind of got out of college and was doing the TV movies. It was the 2000s were like my real wasteland years. Yeah. And that was, I did like Dahmer and Gacy and things like that. Although Dahmer was the movie that introduced, what's his name to the world, Jeremy Renner.
Oh, really?
And in fact, I acted in a scene with Jeremy Renner. Yeah, where I was in a gay bar. I was like supposed to be like a bear who was like trying to pick up on him.
So isn't there there's a new TV series about Dahmer now, right?
Oh, well, I think there's been a couple of things. Yeah, they did a limited series.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm sure much better than mine. Although actually, the one that I did, the
Not
director was
necessarily.
good. It was a good thing actually. It was my contribution was minimal. But anyway, this guy Larry Ratner was always kind of giving me charity work, and it was always on serial killer movies where they'd pre-sell things based on the artwork. Like they wanted to do a Gacy because they knew a video box with like a clown holding a knife would sell. Yeah. So they did all that, and then I just got saved. And then actually, it's funny, that trip when I came out here, the short version of the whole tragedy was
this was 2010 when you
this
drove
was 2010, yeah,
just before we started the winery.
I for like an illegally low amount of money did a rewrite on a horror movie that when it came out was called The Last Exorcism. It was one of those found footage movies about an exorcism. And but I was completely broken, and we lost our house. We had to kind of do a short sale of our house. And my mother-in-law was very angry at me for sticking with the whole fantasy of I'm going to be a professional writer instead of getting a real job.
Well, you did
Yeah.
stick to your.
I did stick to my guns. And
good for you.
This is a sore subject, and my kids might be watching, and this is not something I'm proud of. But so basically, this was actually a very dark chapter.
A dark chapter.
But Sherry's mother, my mother-in-law, didn't want me living in the house with her.
And your kids.
And the kids.
And your daughters.
Although Rachel, I think, found other accommodations. But so I said, fine, fuck it. I'll just I'd get in the car and just drive across the country and just,
Is that when you
there's
showed
actually,
up here?
Yes, there's actually a part
That
of this
was
I'm
going on?
skipping over. I was staying at a friend's house, and the friend is not really happy about me being there. So he kind of waged a not very passive-aggressive campaign to drive me out. So I was so I literally was sleeping in the car because I couldn't take it in that apartment anymore. And I realized, if I'm just sleeping in my car right here in Los Angeles, I am a homeless bum. But if the car is moving and I'm seeing the country,
you're a traveler.
I'm a Jack Kerouac figure.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I visited you, and this was also in the tiny little Geo Metro that barely made it over the Rockies. But what happened was, there is a punchline to the story, bring it back eventually. So what happened was, in the meantime, The Last Exorcism came out.
Yeah.
And it was actually a big hit. My name wasn't on it because I just did a kind of illegal rewrite on it. but people in the biz knew. So anyway,
Yeah.
so it turned out M. Night Shyamalan.
So you were at the very end.
Yeah.
At the bottom, the edge, and it cracks through.
Basically, yeah. So he calls me, and I was like in the middle of like I don't know, Utah or something, and he says, I probably told you the story before, but he Daniel Stamm, the director of Last Exorcism, he called me and said, M. Night Shyamalan loves The Last Exorcism, and he wants to meet us tomorrow at the Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills. So I drove however many 100 miles, like overnight. It was 24 hours.
Just straight.
I made it back to Los Angeles like about an hour and a half before the meeting, and all my clothes were rumpled, like much like this, were rumpled because I'd been like sleeping in the car and everything.
Sure.
So I remembered a trick from my childhood, and we turned on all the steam in his bathroom, and then I by hand
straightened out
my clothes, and then we went to meet Shyamalan at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and we had lunch, and seemed to go well. And then I got the job, and then
and you got the job.
The movie ended up never getting made, but we lived at his ranch in Pennsylvania on and off for like a year, and it only fell apart actually because Daniel and he had creative differences, I guess is the euphemism. Yeah, but what's funny is I always would tell this story as my great triumph of what a cool guerrilla struggler I am. But actually, Daniel told me there was a kind of a little piece of the story that I never knew, and he only told me like a couple of years ago that after that lunch, M. Night Shyamalan said to him, "Who is that weird guy? I can't work with him." And then Daniel said,
"Well, that's David.
Well, let him do the outline. If you don't like the outline, I won't bring it up again." And I guess he liked the outline enough that we went forward.
So you stayed on,
and we stayed on, and it ended up, and he's even contacted me a couple of times since then. Actually, he was a really nice guy, and it was all a very good experience. But to this day, I'm haunted by what I did at that lunch. Because it was like an hour-long lunch. What did I do in that hour to come off as being completely like great? And he's got to be used to odd types. So I was part of what I was thinking was like I hadn't eaten for a while, and I made the tactical error of ordering the cheeseburger, and so I might have made like a gigantic mess.
You had to take the pickles off.
And I had to take the pickles off, exactly. And so I don't know.
And that guy had the nerve to say that he couldn't work with you just because of how you ate your hamburger.
Well, we don't know that for sure. We're just making assumptions now. We have a question from the audience.
Oh, yes.
Great.
Christopher Landers wants to know.
Oh, my God. Hi, Chris.
What wine was used in the consecration scenes of The Last Exorcism?
Oh, so it's so germane to our situation here with our wine.
Thank you, Christopher.
It was a Hermit Woods blueberry wine.
Yeah, wait a minute.
It was
that you had flown in.
The director insisted that it be that, and there was a big case. I remember one case got held up at the border, and there was a big controversy.
That's why we always
about
send two.
But yeah,
something will get.
Well, so actually, you should know. There is a Hermit Woods wine that may or may not be, we don't know for sure, on the shelf in a convenience store somewhere in a Stephen King movie.
Oh, that's right.
I think somebody pointed this out to me before.
Yeah, I never actually have seen the wine, but we sent a wine to the producers of the movie. They reached out to us and they said, we'd love it if your cider label, because of the Hermit, it would be great wine to have in the background of a Stephen King movie. Or cider. I don't know if it ever got on the film. I watched. I couldn't find it.
It might be a false memory, but it's like I'm almost imagining seeing that somehow.
It may be. I hope so, but I don't know. But it was fun. The idea that it might have been, and maybe it was, but we don't know.
Do you know how many movies you've seen? Because forever that I've known you.
Yeah.
You always were talking about movies. It was you've always loved movies. You've always loved.
Instead of being with girls or things like that, it was rub it in, yeah.
I should. Wait, before we go on, I should let Christopher know that you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, good.
I don't know. Yes. Yes, Christopher, young
But
Christopher Landers, I do not know.
So who's
You're married and you have
My friend
kids.
Chris, yeah, I think
It's
you
Chris.
know Chris.
So
Yes, you know Chris. Yeah.
You're married and you have kids.
Yes.
You found the right girl.
Oh, Sherry's
Yes,
unbelievable.
yes. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I do
There
not
you go.
deserve her. She is great. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
she is
fabulous.
No, that makes up for the. I just have
All
this
the years.
built-in resent because I was like I always say, like I was like an incel of all the lettres basically before they came up with the term. So
I didn't even know the term. That's good.
Yeah, so there's always like a little resentment or something.
What I've loved seeing from the sidelines of your career is you sticking with your passion to the deepest, darkest place, and then,
Sleeping in your car on the side of
and then
McDonald's.
to have this trajectory in the last couple of decades of just
Or 1 decade.
or a decade, okay, whatever. It's
Yeah.
just been fantastic to see these opportunities and this recognition. And for you, with Elle, with Benedetta, it's you. This is David Birk to me, which I really love. That's just been great.
Well, thank you. No, that was nice because it was finally like kind of late in life, but it was nice to finally get that experience to be able to kind of feel like I was having my stuff out there, as opposed to
something else. And you
everything,
just needed
all
to make
the other
money
things,
or
even
whatever.
the things that I got made. They always go through this, not to impugn sausages, but through the sausage making process, basically. And it often doesn't really resemble a lot. What
I put so much into my sausages.
I don't want to
I
insult
can't
the
believe you say
charcuterie
that. Yes,
that
that's
so
right.
lovely that you have.
Well,
here in the-
David, I was in my late 40s before I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So
yeah, exactly. They're very pretty much the same.
yeah, so now I'm trying to avoid growing up as hard as I can. Well, he's catching up to me.
So it's
So
about the time. When were you at Cal Arts?
that was
what
in
years?
the
81 to-
83 to 87.
83 to 87. Okay, because you and I were 79 to 83, right?
For undergraduate, and then I was, and then I went to graduate school.
Still at
80
UCLA?
Still at UCLA, 88 to 90. Yeah.
So what'd you do from 83 to 88?
I
Those 5 years.
handed out movie passes. I had dumb jobs. I worked in a record store. That's how I met my wife. I was working in a record store.
Oh, that's how you guys met?
Yeah. In fact, the story there, everything's a story, but basically how I met my wife was her mother came into the store and she was going to rent. It wasn't just a record store in these days. We were already renting VHS.
Right.
She was going to rent Fitzcarraldo. No. Yeah, she was going to rent Fitzcarraldo. That's what it was.
It's amazing you remember this.
And I said, no, don't watch that. It's a really boring piece of crap. But there's a documentary, Burden of Dreams, that's about the making of Fitzcarraldo.
Which is brilliant.
And that's brilliant. So I said, you should watch that. So then she told
Her daughter.
oh, there's a cute boy. In those days, I was cute. There's a cute boy who works at the record
Why don't you
store.
return this movie and get
You
something
return
else?
the movie.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Really?
And then Sherry did that. And then we had a nice conversation. And I didn't think anything of it. And then she came back into the store again and again. And then like the third
finally
time,
connected
I finally
to you?
got like, oh, maybe she likes me because she's hanging out and talking. Why is she not just dropping off the movie and leaving? She's actually talking. So then I actually worked up the nerve to ask her to go to the movies. And we saw Zelig, the Woody Allen movie, at the Movies of Tarzana. See, it had multiple E's in the title, I remember. Yeah. And that was it. So that's pretty much now you know my entire life story, basically.
No, not entire life. We're going to get there, though. We got 20 minutes left, so we're going to figure that
At some
out.
point, we should talk about wine.
Well, no, we have a question from the audience. Greg Farley wants to know what project you're most proud of. Yes.
Remember, Greg Farley was my neighbor, lived next door to me.
I do remember.
He was my brother's age.
Oh my God!
And
I
he
do
spent,
totally.
I think it was 1 year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, at Highland Hall. So he was there as well. Greg and I reconnected.
Wow.
3 years ago or something like that. And all of his siblings came out here for a gathering.
Probably 4 years ago.
Greg hung out at my house and reconnected with my brother. And it's just been great because he's out in California still and is into wine. and found out about us from our broadcast or something, and it brought this whole thing together. So anyway, there's a little preamble for Greg. I know you didn't know him that well.
No, I think by a wide margin, Elle is the one thing where it feels like, oh, that was my baby, and it got me. Because even Benedetta, Paul had been working on that script for several years, and then asked me to come in, and so I kind of remade the whole thing, but it was a rewrite, basically, is how it started out. But Elle was because there was just kind of like a very kind of a sliver of a book that was based on, and there was a lot of freedom. So I was able to do
correct me if I'm wrong. When they were trying to pull up the cast for Elle, it was possibly going to be done domestically in the United States, but it was too racy or controversial to be done in this country, and you ended up doing it in France.
Yeah, that basically is what. Yeah, basically every major actress they wanted to make it as an American movie, and Paul wanted to make it as an American movie, I think. But every actress passed on it. For a while, Julianne Moore, I think, originally said yes. Then she said, "I can't do it because it's about a rape." Right. And then she said she had like a family issues that were like too close, like somebody in her family was assaulted or something like that, and so she didn't feel like she could do it. And so then the whole time, Isabelle Huppert is like the biggest star in France, was like waiting, and they basically, and they'd originally talked to her about doing it when it was going to be, and they basically betrayed her to try to find a big American movie star. And then when they couldn't do that, then they went back to Isabelle Huppert, and it was like plan B was, let's just do it as a French movie. And then that was lucky, because I think it would not have. It would not have been received the same way.
And it was so. And she did such a great job.
It was a great movie.
Oh, thank you very much. And actually, it is interesting how culturally how things kind of magically fit, even by not fit. For instance, I put a scene in there based on a thing from real life when my mother died, where we had her ashes, and we're like driving around trying to think of a symbolic place
to get rid of the ashes.
Get rid of the ashes. Yeah. Like we couldn't really think of anything, so we drove by a park. We drove by a park, and we said, "Oh, we had a picnic there. I guess that was a nice day that day." Yeah, there. So we did that. So I put that scene in the movie, and then a guy said, in France, they have like no tradition of spreading ashes like that at all. So that scene was like it just played like a bizarre obsession of hers. It didn't seem like she was just in some half-assed way doing some ritual, So
because that doesn't happen in France.
So sometimes on that, even some ways in which the translation between cultures didn't work out, the weirdness of it not working out right added something.
I think so much of music, movies, books, when there's that like quirky edginess that sort of gets you out of your comfort, it heightens your senses, and then with your senses heightened, what you're taking in is so much more profound. And I think it's the artists that ride that edge of like, nah, this is a little weird, I'm out of my comfort zone, but what I'm seeing is really awesome. It's really profound. And so I think it's those things that happen. It could be, something out of the not sitting in the center of the table, or a wine not made out of grapes, or a movie that's going to talk about, things that people would rather not talk about. Or delve into.
I'm curious. So we have a question from the audience. Yeah. So maybe we're getting into an area things might be not rather talk about. I don't know, but Christopher Landers wants to know.
Right.
How were the accommodations at Garfield County Lockup?
Let me hear about this. I don't know about this one. This is good.
My Vanity Press self-published memoir, in which I discuss my imprisonment there, I was tortured in Garfield County Lockup, will cover all of those details.
Okay, good.
So we have to wait for that.
Where to go to find this? And is it a book
This is
somewhere?
a joke. This is a joke. To be clear, the question was in fact.
Yes.
Time again. Was in fact.
He's wanting more.
I thought we were celebrating Garfield
am I
County.
pouring into
You were celebrating that it's a joke and that
Yes,
you weren't locked up in Garfield.
No, that's my friend Chris's sense of humor. Yeah, he's.
How do we know, Chris?
So surprising that you have a friend that
Yeah.
might do something like this in your live broadcast. So
I don't even
strange you
know.
would have friends like that.
I don't even. Where is Garfield County anyway?
I don't know. I would hope you would know.
I thought you were there.
Who's
No.
Christopher Landers? How do you
Well,
know
you know,
him?
He's my other old friend. I mean, I know I've known him almost as long as I've known Ken. Actually, yeah,
Excellent.
he's back in Los Angeles.
Where'd you meet him? And when?
Chris? Oh, actually, he was my brother's friend. He was my brother John's friend.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
I don't know that.
and Kurt, another good friend of mine,
Mhm.
Kurt Voss, who's also a director. They were friends of my younger brother actually, and I was, I guess, socially retarded or whatever. Oh no, actually, I remember how it originated was I had a car and they didn't have a car, so I was their ride to go to the beach.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
So then I went from being a chauffeur to the beach to being a friend. I guess that was the idea. So
That's terrific. So I have a question for you. So, you know, you've worked on some really exciting projects and you've
and some not.
connected, and some not, and connected with some interesting people along your way, clearly. Is there a particular moment or place along this way where you made a connection or you had a moment in your life that was really profound to you in where you were, who you were with, what you were doing, what moved you in the moment in a way that was unique and special? I don't know that there's maybe there isn't an answer to that, but I mean, it seems like, we have highlights in our life. There must be something in.
Well, probably meeting Paul Verhoeven and the way that I met him.
And who's Paul Verhoeven?
Paul Verhoeven, it was a director who I was a fan of from a young age.
Yeah, he did Repo Man.
He was a Dutch director, and he did sort of like kind of art movies.
Yeah.
Or what were released as art movies in America, in the American
Right.
context anyway. And then and in fact, I think one of the first movie with subtitles I ever saw in a theater, my dad took me to see a movie of his called Soldier of Orange. It's a World War II movie. And I loved it. And then later on with Sherry, actually she had like Z Channel or whatever, like it was like the channel that showed and so I remember we watched The Fourth Man, I remember, on one of our first dates, which is another one of his movies.
Wow.
And so I was a big fan of his. And then I did a rewrite on a thing. It was going to be a remake of a Chinese gangster movie. And they told me Paul Verhoeven likes the script and is attached to and wants to be attached to direct it. And I was going to meet him. And I was in the bathroom actually. And I just flushed the toilet and came out of the stall. And he was like just coming in the bathroom. And I was like so excited to see him. I said, oh, Mr. Verhoeven and all this stuff. And then I realized, oh, maybe I should have waited until we were out of the bathroom to do this.
That is so funny.
But it was kind of weird.
Wow,
but then that whole thing is like, then he had a good sense of humor about the whole thing and everything. And so it very quickly felt like I was just hanging out with like my hero, basically. So that and it felt like a kind of a bit of a redemption after a long period of, because unlike you, like you were saying, like you were following different paths, you didn't know what you wanted to do. I kind of had the more torturous experience of knowing very much what I wanted to do and just not being able to
get there.
And then meeting him, it was like it was kind of like a little bit like the clouds parting and the sun was coming through exactly, and like there's the road, there's a path, and even if I didn't do anything else, if I just did like Elle made one movie that I'm not embarrassed by, it was kind of worth it.
And it's so awesome that you got there and you did that with him.
Yeah, no,
and
that was
created
great.
one of his best movies, in my opinion. But it's based on
your,
because that resulted in Elle.
Yeah. So that resulted in well, that movie didn't happen, basically. Mostly because he didn't think Oscar Isaac. He didn't like Oscar Isaac, who wasn't a big name yet, and he didn't like him for the part.
Sure.
And so the whole thing fell apart. But then, like 3 years later, he thought of me for the other things.
That's great. It's funny you tell the bathroom story. It struck a chord with me because this is a moment in my life.
Story?
I do it.
Oh my goodness.
No, but it was very embarrassing. Even to this day, I think I shudder when I think about this experience. It happened like 5 years ago. I was at the Rhode Island Film Festival, and we were Gerald and I were attending all these films, and there was this. We had been watching this series on Netflix or something with this guy who was the star of the series, and I really liked this actor, and turns out he's one of the filmmakers, and he was presenting at the theater where we were at in Rhode Island, and we were in the audience, and I'm waiting with bated breath to listen to him tell the story of how he came to be who he was. And then later, about a half an hour later, everything was over, all the pomp and circumstance was over, and I'm in the bathroom, and I'm at the urinal in the men's room, and he comes in next to me. And I struck up a conversation with him at the urinal, and I remember saying something like, "You play a much better nice guy than you do a bad guy," or something like that. I was making some critical comment on it
While you're
at the urinal.
At
The urinal, because he presented a movie. He had made a movie that was featured at this festival, and it was a great movie, and he was a good guy in the movie and not the bad guy. He was the star and the good guy, but the series I was watching, he was the villain.
Wow.
And I liked him so much more as the good guy and not the villain. He played the good guy much better. And I revealed that to him in the most awkward moment, which seconds after I revealed it to him, I realized, and he gave me some sort of short answer that clearly said, "Yeah, thank you. Bye."
Let's continue this in another look at That's a lot of funny stories in the movie business. And actually, a friend of mine actually had he made a movie, and they were having a screening to show it to prospective buyers, and like two guys from some studio in their suits were peeing side by side at the urinal, and they didn't know he was in the bathroom too. And one of them looked over at the other one like that, and he knew that the movie was going to be in trouble just from witnessing that urinal encounter.
It's strange that I remember that moment so clearly. It was very vivid. It was one of my least proud moments when I think, did you really just do that?
It is so fascinating to me to see more and more of the world in so many ways in the last decade for me, that humans are just doing what they're out to do, to create stuff. And this is the tapestry of everything that we all experience. These are the movies that we go to, the books we read, the music that we listen to, the venues that we spend time at, the beverages that we drink, are just different people doing their stuff for whatever reason. And I guess, I know it's obvious, but it's
not obvious.
It seems so strange. It's, you look out on the world of everything going on, you don't really see the people behind that. It's just a person like yourself doing this stuff.
We started this conversation before the show started, and I was really intrigued by the direction of that conversation, where you were talking about some of the interactions and the struggles that you've had sort of breaking through in Hollywood and working with teams of people that aren't necessarily all on the same page. And we talked about the idea that this is relevant in lots of parts of our lives, whether you're a geologist or a photographer or own a winery, that it's about relationships and struggling to figure out how within those groups of people to find some kind of symbiotic relationship or that's positive and that can move together in a way that works for everybody. And it's not always easy. Sometimes it falls on its face. And so, and then so it's really fascinating. And I'm also fascinated by the fact that you always, you said earlier that we're the artists here and you're the scientist. But what's always intrigued me about you and partly why we're together today and in a friendship is that you're an artist and you don't always identify yourself that way. And I don't know if you do now, but I have always seen you, the way you think, the way you look at the world in a very artistic and creative way. And it's kind of interesting. Sometimes your science, you see yourself more as a scientist because you've spent your life pursuing that adventure or that career.
Right.
So you see yourself more as that. So letting the artist through sometimes seems sort of counterintuitive to
It's
you.
weird.
So you push against it.
I see. What's interesting is I almost think that is a false dichotomy. I was actually thinking there's a quote by Nabokov, the writer who wrote Lolita.
Oh yeah.
He was I think it was like he was talking about Kafka or something.
Yeah.
But he was like talking about like when you're creating like a great work of art or something. He said, if I remember it right, he's basically saying you need the precision of an artist and the imagination of a scientist to basically do it. And it's like, and it's exactly the opposite of what you think, but it really is true.
Yeah.
That
and it's why
because I mean, for one thing, because with science is like completely open-ended. It's this open-ended exploration where.
What do you mean? No, science is more constrained. The art's the thing that's totally open-ended.
That's so fascinating because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, where is he going with this?
I know that's what you're going to say.
Art is about constructing boxes around reality. Art is actually about limiting reality. Whereas with science, it's like you're playing around with literally like the basic elements of existence.
Art is boxing in.
Yeah. Wow. We need to talk about this more.
Fascinating. It is an interesting thing. That's why I think Nabokov's line, I thought that was like a really good one because it makes you reverse that you realize that no, you're actually, because I mean art, I'm going to get pretentious, but basically
you go, man.
Basically it's like we were talking about. We were talking about fear of death and things like that. It's like when people were drawing cave paintings or whatever. It's like. That's they weren't just expressing themselves and exploring or something like that. Right. No, they're trying to like
do something
keep
concrete.
The bear away, something by like drawing pictures or something like that. And I think that and I think that with blockbuster movies or whatever, it's still the same thing. But like
I would actually I'd counter that a little bit. And you
wrong,
that's fine. I'm okay with being wrong. Not really. So, I mean, as soon as you said with blockbuster movies, then you're absolutely right. It's about putting a box.
Yeah.
So in that part of the world, the creativity that occurs, maybe that is somewhat of what's going on. But I think art, if you throw the net out as wide as possible and you try and imagine an artist trying to experience what their art is about, you could also see that it could go the other way.
Yeah.
You could be somebody trying to reach as far outside that box.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
As possible.
I like this box concept a lot.
Well, because you're a scientist.
A lot of sense to me. No. The scientist looking at art as an artist. That boxing makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I was just thinking about like, well, what the chemistry that you do.
There's no
with
chemistry
the wine
in
making.
this.
Well, this is Greg Farley just stated, agree with you, Bob, couldn't make those wines without the imagination of an artist. And that's what I have said all along.
Exactly.
You're the artist.
That's my point. That you're the wine, that your weeniology or whatever you call it.
Weeniologist?
Weeniology. We're back to the urinal again.
What is the word for it?
Viniculturist. No, that's the grower of. He's a enologist.
Enologist.
Yeah.
Enologist.
Well, I have my own pronunciation.
You're close.
So wait a minute. So he's not putting anything in a box. I mean, he's trying to make wine out of tomatoes.
No, that was my point. That what you're doing.
No, I think he's right. I am putting it in a box.
No, a bottle. Not a bottle.
But I'm bringing in the spectrum of stuff into
yes,
a bottle,
something that's digestible.
Okay,
and that's why this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That you, as an artist, as a screenwriter, are trying to take whole big tapestry of concepts and ideas.
Now I get it.
And bringing it into a digestible nugget.
Right.
That then the other person goes, boom.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
you just said something
exactly,
to me. I understand it.
Right, because you're thinking about the
And
audience.
that's why the Nabokovs switch.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying,
sense.
because you're thinking about the audience, and you're basically trying to hit a small spectrum of predictable emotions, like pushing buttons, right?
Right.
The equivalent with the winemaking art metaphor, I would say, is like you have a sense of taste,
Right.
of the experience, of the subjective, emotional experience of drinking,
which is what you're going to do
wine,
with your words.
and then you use, and that's that's whatever. Then you use your knowledge of chemistry or whatever to try to reverse engineer or whatever how to get that reaction.
I'm gonna need to, and after this broadcast, we're gonna have to explore this together more. But I'm gonna be exploring this art in a box idea for months. I think it's very interesting.
It's really cool.
It's really interesting. We're going to talk about this. Yeah.
Well, at least I finally found a way to turn the conversation to wine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So just so you know, a couple people. Gary Latterman has been on. I don't know if he's on right now, but Gary Latterman came on, and Drew LeBlanc says hello. Wants to know how Max is doing. So just so you know. But anyway, we only have a couple more minutes before we come to the end of the hour. It's amazing how fast an hour goes by.
We should tell a little bit to the viewers out there of David's stuff, of your movie.
I've been trying to get to that, but you guys have just wanted to go back to.
These people should watch Elle. They should watch Benedetta. They should
that's
see these
about
movies.
it. I think that's
these
about the end of the list. I know Last Exorcism is good. Last Exorcism is good.
Yep.
Elle is good. Benedetta is good. Slender Man was a tragedy. Basically, that was a real wasted opportunity. The head of Screen Gems. It was a Screen Gem. It was really crazy. And meddled a lot in that.
Well, this is the thing that I don't understand too. That the collaborative part of putting together a movie must be extremely difficult to navigate. So if I had to create this stuff with a whole big committee, basically of other people's inputs and this. No. I don't think you want to put in 22 pounds of blueberries. You need to use 21.
No, exactly.
I'd be like, okay.
And then what
sorry,
happens?
I'm gonna go do my 22-pound thing.
Exactly. And then what happens is, especially on the thing, sometimes there will be like 8 or 9 producers on a thing, and they all have to justify their
payroll, their existence
by putting in their 2 cents, and everybody's got to kind of be placated, so it winds up being
a mess.
So every movie that we actually see, every book that thing that is produced this way.
Well, not every one. I mean, I'm saying like it's not that way with like Martin Scorsese. I would say it's not that way with like Paul Verhoeven. So like those, there are certain directors.
There are certain people that can just say
quote unquote auteurs or whatever. They have the clout. They can pretty much do what they want.
They can drive it,
and sometimes they'll cycle through 10 writers on a project or something. But they're driving it the whole way.
That's great. I mean, that's
so in conclusion, because we really we do need to wrap it up. I want to know
Let's talk about the beer.
We will. Don't worry. Next time you're back, so you pop into our lives every few years, and on your adventures here east. For the audience, what might we all expect from you for your next?
I'm currently working with Paul Verhoeven on a new movie. If he doesn't kill me or I commit suicide first. That's another adaptation of another book by Philippe Djian, the guy who wrote Elle.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's called Sans Compter, which is the French title. It doesn't have an English title yet. But it means like doing something lavishly, like without thinking about it. It literally means like without counting. It's like if you're having a party and you're
just living the moment.
Yeah, and you're just like, and you're like not keeping track of anything. Yeah, that's so obviously have to come up with a better title at some point. But that's what it's called right now, and they're talking about shooting that early next year, and then also hopefully I'll finish my thing soon, and then that will probably just be popping up on YouTube or something in the near future. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you agreed to be here with us today.
Nobody ever wants to talk to me, so I'm very honored. Thank you.
I always want to talk to you.
Yeah, no. Oh,
Always.
No, yes. There's usually not an audience involved. So
And to our audience, next time you pop into our part of the world, we are going to for sure have you back to catch up on what's been going on. So,
knock wood.
yes, knock wood. Yes. So thank you everybody for joining us for yet another hour with the Hermits here, and David Birk from Los Angeles.
Yep.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Till next week. Have a great week. We'll surprise you
Thanks,
with
everyone.
some other interesting topic of some sort. I'm sure. Who knows what? But we're really
figure it
glad
out
you
before
joined
then.
us today, and have a great evening, everybody. Good night.